One thing is a spoiler of exactly how the drama ends, so I'll save that one for last. What else is there? Is there anything else? Like I say, I'm positive I'm going to end up forgetting something really important. What else made the story unique and that I really liked it? Jiang Ci was one of the things that I actually really liked up to a certain point, and then she destroyed the story. So maybe I'll start with that. Jiang Ci, I really liked her at the start because she seemed to be a character that actually had a head on her shoulders, and for at least like the first half-ish of this story, a lot of it was stuff like I've said before. This is what bothers me so much. When a character, it's like in Dance of the Sky Empire, up to a certain point, there is no love between these characters. There's not even a friendship between these characters. There's not even a partnership between these characters. So, like, for them to be, like, against each other, and for her to be doing things that are undermining him, and, like, etc., 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 not helping him, actually possibly even hurting him, it's understandable because, like, why would it be any other way? She has no reason to support him. She doesn't even know what he's doing yet. They're not friends. They're not even, like, because that was the interesting thing about her. She even said, like, why would I get in your way? I have no reason to get in your way. And it's true. She doesn't really, because she doesn't really know what he's trying to do. So as long as he's not actually trying to kill someone or trying to hurt someone, what would be the point of getting in his way? Why would she? And she doesn't. It's not like she's literally trying to, like, you know, completely, like, whatever. But at the same time, she also has no reason to get in Pei Yan's way. So, like, she's literally, like, she's got nothing to do with this. She got pulled in and trapped into the middle of it. So she's trying to work out what to do. You know, in one sense, it felt like it took her too long to actually try to start use her brain to figure out what is trying to go on. So what is right. There comes a point where she feels like something is entirely her fault. It's like it kind of was because you didn't start working out what's going on. But in the other sense, why would she even try to figure out what's going on? She doesn't want to be here. She's literally only here because Pei Yan won't let her go because he knows that she's a witness and he's trying to get what she saw out of her. So he's purposely keeping her there, and then all of a sudden he starts falling in love with her, so he won't let her go. She's trapped. And Wei Zhao won't let her go because he got a hold of something that she needs back. She wants it back, and she needs it back because it's like super important to her, and he stole it, and he won't give it back to her. So she's stuck. She's literally stuck where she doesn't want to be. This has nothing to do with her. Why would she care? Why should she care? It's got nothing to do with her. She just wants to leave. So it makes perfect sense. There's a whole lot of what she does at the beginning that I'm like, she made a lot of mistakes, and in a sense it's kind of annoying, but in another sense, I can't blame her for it. I'm not mad at her for it. I didn't dislike her for it. She's actually, there was a lot of places, she's very, very understanding character. Like, when she starts, like, looking at people and thinking about people, she's actually really good at getting down to, like, understanding people, and she's very gentle in a big sense, too. Like, she sees things with Pei Yan, and she, like, some of the things that she says to him, it's really sweet. Like, she's very understanding and all of that stuff. And even, like, her reaction to Pei Yan when she realized what he was doing and that he was using her and all this stuff, and she felt completely betrayed and all this stuff, even all of that made perfect sense. Now, my problem is the turnaround. Because the thing is, there comes a point where, like, she starts getting drawn toward Wei Zhao, and this is one of the mistakes that he made, okay? He should not have lied to her, because he did end up setting her up. He outright lied to her that her master went to Yulo in order to make sure that she came with him, because as it turns out, spoiler, her master is somebody that he needs because her master is also a witness to something, to what happened with the prince back then. So Wei Zhao needs to get a hold of her master. This all plays into this. I have said it in so many other videos. At the point where she's not even friends with him, never mind saying that he's somebody that she loves, it makes sense that she can have a turnaround and be mad at him and not trust him and not believe him and all the rest of this stuff. The problem is when they bring it to the point where that should not happen, and yet it does. And they do this over and over and over and over and over, and it has happened, I've seen it 1,000 times, where they bring it too far before they have some kind of idiotic thing that gets in their way and causes all this problem in their relationship. They brought it way too far in this drama, and I need to figure out how to explain this, because in a sense, this one is almost worse Because the thing is, Jiang Ci starts liking Wei Zhao. They go to the city and she starts seeing, she starts hearing, she starts experiencing him and what is happening with him. The depth to what she's understanding and seeing and realizing and cluing into and connecting with, it gets so deep for her. Her personality and what she's like and what she's seeing and hearing and all of this stuff, it gets to the point where she literally says with her own mouth, you all are misunderstanding him. Something happens within the city that is like super sad and everybody says it's his fault. Like a whole bunch of people die and it's his fault. And in a sense, yes, it is. In another sense, like, what else could he have done? It makes sense that it happens like that. There's nothing else he could have done. Nothing else he could do. Like, it happened. But this is what she's saying. Y'all are misunderstanding him because y'all think that he's just cold and heartless and that he's cruel and that he did this on purpose because he's vicious and he doesn't care and all of this stuff. And you're misunderstanding him because that is not what he's like. She knows now that that is not what he's like. She witnessed way back there with that ambassador guy. This could also be a spoiler. But that ambassador was not killed. Like I say, he wanted to talk to that ambassador. He's not gonna kill him. He wants information out of him. He wants to talk to him. So he kidnapped him. And she knows. She went through this already where she saw that it was a mistake. He did not kill him. He kidnapped him because he wanted information. By this point in the story, she has already experienced this and she has seen why he wants the information. She knows what his goal is. She knows what he's been through in order to get to this point. She has literally experienced all of this with him now. She has seen the city's reaction to him. She has heard, she understands it now and she knows him. She has been through all of this with him. This is the point they're at and she's literally on the brink of telling him. They pretend she's the one that came up with this, that she's actually his wife. In order to protect him in the situation they were in, she claimed that she was his wife, so everybody thinks they're married. And I'm pretty sure she was going to tell him, I don't want it to just be pretend because I love you and I really do want to be your wife. That's pretty much what she's on the brink of telling him. Because of what she understands and knows and has experienced with him now. This is at the point we're at. She literally said, you all misunderstand him. Like she's saying she's the only one that does get it. She gets it now. She knows the real him now. This is the point we're at. And yet, within 2 days, so for me, within like 3 scenes or something like that, what happens? What happens is that, for one thing, Jiang Ci finds out that this was a setup. He lied and was using her as bait. Okay, I am trying so hard to be understanding here. I don't even know why, but for once, I am trying so hard to be understanding. I understand that it would be a shock to find out that he actually set a trap and was using her as bait. Because, for one thing, this is what Pei Yan did that she found out, and this is part of what turned her against him. To find out that he's not what she thought, because she thought that he was a righteous person. See, that's part of the thing now. Him using her as bait was maybe part of it. The real thing with Pei Yan that really turned her against him was finding out that he's not ready to stand up for righteousness and justice to the degree that she thought he would. Because of a case, I'm not going to go back and explain that. Because of a case that was happening, it turns out he's a little more self-centered than she thought. He's a little more interested in this being protected than he is in real justice and righteousness happening. So he came crashing down off a pedestal for her. Did that happen with Wei Zhao? I don't think so. I think this was a ridiculous turnaround that was completely irrational. Completely, what is the other word I used? Not just irrational, there was something else. Given what she herself literally said. And, okay, I understand that realizing that he used her as bait and lied to her this whole time. about, like, her master being in the city. The master wasn't in the city. He lied to her in order to make her follow them. I understand that that would be like a backstab betrayal, and it would be shocking, and it would make her upset, and she should justifiably be mad at him for this. However, she projectiled it onto something that to me made literally no sense. She just said that everybody is mistaken, and he's not like this. He's like this. This is what she so firmly believes. She's saying it unconsciously in her sleep. She's literally like, she's sick and unconsciously talking in her sleep and saying this is all irrational. You're like all wrong about him and all this stuff. I understand him and all. That is the claim she just made. And then in the middle of a battle, she recognizes her master dressed up in the enemy's uniform. Enemy's uniform. And Wei Zhao is suddenly fighting with her master. And how does Jiang Ci react? She just heard that it turns out that this is all a trap because Wei Zhao is trying to get a hold of her master. Why is he trying to get a hold of her master? She never asks that question. Never asks him why. She just said that he is not like that. She firmly believes that her master is not only innocent, she believes that her master is completely 100% unrelated to any of this. Why did her brain jump to the assumption that Wei Zhao was going to hurt or kill her master? Explain this to me. Anybody who's watched the drama, explain to me how her brain went there. Nothing about the situation, nothing to me, nothing justifies making that leap. Nothing. She's all of a sudden screaming in Wei Zhao's face, "Don't hurt my master. If you hurt my master, I will never forgive you." Does not say anything to her master about hurting Wei Zhao, the man that she loves and adores to the point she wants to marry him and spend the rest of her life with him. The second most important person in her life. When I say I'm trying to be understanding, okay, I'm trying to imagine what it would be like if I fell in love with someone and wanted to marry them, and then all of a sudden I found out that they used me to try to get a hold of my mother. Where would my brain go? How would I feel? No matter how hard I think about it, all I can think about is that I would want to know why. Why are you going after my mother? What does she have to do with anything? Okay, right there in the moment of what's happening, there's literally chaos. They're on a battlefield. There's people everywhere fighting and killing each other at this moment that she recognizes her master, and Wei Zhao goes against her. She's dressed as an enemy for one thing. And yet Jiang Ci doesn't go, she goes, "That's my master." Does Wei Zhao know that that's her master? Why does she even assume that Wei Zhao knows that's her master? She did just hear that he was going after the master. So what? Did he know what her master looks like? Why does she assume that he even knows? I don't understand how her brain got to the extreme. In one sense, yelling not to hurt him, I get that, but at the same time, she never told her master not to hurt him. It was all one-sided. It's like her brain instantly leaped to assuming that he was going to injure or downright kill her. Why? Why did her brain go to that? Why? If she firmly believes that that is not what he's like, she firmly believes that her master is not only an innocent person, but also that she has nothing to do with anything, it would be like assuming... I don't know how to explain this. It doesn't make sense to me. Of all the times where I'm like, they should have known better because they should have known their person better, this one really does. I'm almost speechless with how little sense it makes. Why did her brain go there? It does not make sense to me. No matter how hard I think about it, it doesn't make sense. In the very specific moment of right then and there, I can understand her screaming not to hurt her because they're literally in the middle of a battlefield and these two are literally fighting. But the fact that she knows her master knows how to use a sword. She's fighting back. And yet she doesn't tell her master not to hurt Wei Zhao. Suddenly at the snap of her fingers, and because it carries on The whole rest of the entire drama up to a certain point, and we'll get there in a minute, the whole rest of this entire arc of how violently she is against Wei Zhao. Violently. It's like we've gone right back to the beginning of the drama. She doesn't have a clue who Wei Zhao or what is going on. She believes that he's cold and heartless and cruel and that he'd kill someone at the drop of a hat if that's what. Reverted entirely back. It's like this entire thing that we just went through of her realizing who he is and understanding what he's been through and why he's like this and all of this got completely buried like it did not happen. We went right back over here, right back to her believing that he's some kind of cruel assassin that at the snap of a finger is going to kill someone. And for some reason she believes that he's going to do it to her master. It's like the entire thing that happened with the Wei ambassador, all of that got completely like would never even happen. We went all the way back to the very beginning. She doesn't have a clue anymore. This is where we went. We went from here all the way back to here. And she's violently opposing and against him and hating his guts. She will never forgive him. Like I say, how would I feel if the man that I loved suddenly held my mother captive? For some reason, there's something about it that feels like it should make sense somehow. And a part of it perhaps does. I maybe kind of understand. Like I say, like that is what he was using against her before. He was saying, if you don't behave and do what I'll tell you to do, then I'll go kill your master. But that's back when she didn't know him. She didn't know why he was doing it or what was happening. She didn't understand the depth of what he was. She didn't know him back then. We've literally gone back in time. We've literally taken all of this and pretend it does not exist, gone all the way back. None of this is playing into it at all, and that doesn't make sense to me. It literally doesn't make sense. How do you do that? You can't do that. There are certain things, like if someone was your friend or if someone was just your partner, maybe you could reverse all the way back. But if someone is that important to you, to the extreme degree that he is to her by this point, to go all the way back here, how do you do that? Why do so many of these stories do that? It does not make sense no matter how hard I try to think about it. And I am trying so hard to look at every aspect and understand how she could possibly do that, and I just can't do it. I cannot in any way justify her going that far with it, to the degree it took her how long to go against Pei Yan? How long did it take her? To the degree, no, I will never ever forgive you for this. If you dare, if anything happens to... She completely nixes her own master in this, by the way. Her master, like, it's to the point where, okay, major spoiler, her master dies, and she blames Wei Zhao. Fully 100%, completely, like insanely through the roof violently, believes that it's Wei Zhao's fault. Why would she believe that it's Wei Zhao's fault? Why? She's completely taken her master completely out of the equation. It's like her master is like this helpless little puppet, even more of a helpless puppet than she herself is. Like the degree of insult that she insulted her master with in order to take it to the degree of believing it was entirely Wei Zhao's fault. He even tells her, like, it was her master that did it. Her master went to this woman and agreed to work with her and all. And yet, Jiang Ci completely nixes that, buries it like it doesn't exist. Like, who does she think her master is? By the point where her master dies, her master's already admitted that she was involved in all of this, that this is the type of person she was before, that this is her capabilities, that this is what she knew. She heard that her master was working with this woman and doing all of this, and yet, all of that doesn't matter. None of it counts. Who is your master in your eyes? Do you think your master has any capability whatsoever of using her own brain or protecting herself or anything? You really think Wei Zhao is that big? You really think that he's that huge, that capable, that evil, I know that when you lose someone, your brain kind of turns off. If you think it's someone's fault, like the shock of losing someone, believe me, I have lost people in my life, both times, all three people that I can think of that were extremely close to me, like my dad and my brother. All of them, it was a sudden shock factor where they were just suddenly gone. It was like all of a sudden, out of the blue and gone. A heart attack and a car accident. When you get emotional and when things happen, like, yes, I get that aspect of it. And like I say, in both instances, even right then and there to believe it was him, even right in the middle of the battle to be screaming that, I get that aspect. But the problem is, as you calm down and some of that adrenaline goes away, she maintains this level of believing that he is that big, that in control, that vicious, that horrible, just because it's her. And she completely nixes her own master having any capabilities whatsoever. It does not make sense to me. And this carries on for so long. So long. It destroyed the story for me. Utterly destroyed it. And a big reason why is because of their makeup thing. It's Pei Yan that finally tells Jiang Ci, by the way, Wei Zhao didn't know anything about this. It's totally not his fault that your master died because even he was fooled because she even fooled him. Guess what? Your master's a grown-up that has been through some stuff in life. Guess what? She's biased and has her own views. Guess what? She's capable of doing things. She's capable of making her own choices. She's capable of fighting back against Wei Zhao. Shock! Oh my gosh, she's a capable human being. She's a capable adult. Shock! Sorry, but not sorry. So Jiang Ci finally finds that out and she goes, oh no. However, their makeup. He is now, like I said, this has happened before in things. Forgiveness and what is forgiveness and what is love. What is love and what is forgiveness? She held that against him. She would not forgive him. She told him to his face, I will never forgive you. Especially if her master dies for any reason whatsoever. If she's anywhere within, like if she was across the world and died, by this point Jiang Ci probably would have blamed Wei Zhao. It doesn't matter how her master dies. By this point, she's utterly convinced that if her master dies, it's Wei Zhao's fault. Period. End of story. Like I say, it wouldn't even matter if she was across the world. I bet she would have blamed him. Where was I going with that? Oh, the forgiveness. She told him to his face, I think more than once, that she will never forgive him for this. So he's got this guilt on his shoulders that he should not even have to be carrying because it was not his fault that our master died. He feels like it's his fault because he's the one that brought her master there. Yeah, because he had his goals where he was trying to get information, and her freaking master, I hate her master. Her master is so biased and so self-centered. She claims, let bygones be bygones. We just need to let the past go. No. She says that, and then she talks outside the other side of her mouth, where she is so violently vicious to Wei Zhao, because he's the son of this guy that she believes is the murderer of the prince. She did what everybody else in the city did. What does Wei Zhao have to do with it? Why are you acting like it was him with his own hands that killed this guy? That was his dad, if his dad was even the one that did it. She actually was missing so much information herself. She did not see anything with her own eyes. She was leaping and bounding to her own conclusions. She really was, because she was missing a bunch of information too, and yet she was pretending that she wasn't. She was convinced that she knew what happened back then, so she was biased, believing that his dad was the one that totally did this, and because his dad was the one that did this, she's so violently against him, and yet we're gonna let bygones be bygones. Yeah, right, woman. Yeah, right. All you had to do was talk to him, and yet you wouldn't talk to him, and it's because she wouldn't talk to him that a whole bunch of this happened. The minute she finally calms down and starts talking to him, he goes, that is an interesting bit of information right there. I think we need to go and look into this. All you had to do was freaking talk to him. And yet Jiang Ci was like, don't you kill my man, I'm gonna kill you. You dared to take my man. The makeup scene. She's holding this against him and saying she'll never forgive him, to the point where he's like, he can't even see her anymore. He has to go off to war now because he can't. And they all of a sudden made another war happen. And I'm like, half of this stuff I even forgot. Like, This was all the way over there, and by the time they finally handle it again, it's been like a huge arc of a story. And he's like, at one point, you remember Alan? And I'm like, no, who's Alan? Well, that was like 20 episodes ago at least. That was so long ago, and you expect me to remember now? You've changed so much and refocused the whole story and brought it way over whatever, and it's like, oh my gosh, not very well done there. But anyway, like, it practically turned into a completely different story, but this whole master arc and everything that was happening there, it was like a completely different story. Like, someone that's read the book, tell me, was that in the book? Because this, like, it feels like they did two different stories here all of a sudden. And like I say with the whole makeup scene, he couldn't see Jiang Ci before he left the city because she wouldn't forgive him, so he's got this guilt hanging on his shoulders, so he feels like he can't face her anymore and all this stuff. So he leaves the city, and she follows him. And he's on the battle, in the middle of their camp and all this stuff. He hears his name, and he turns, and it's her, and the look on his face, he's shocked. She's there. He's seeing her again. And she's all grins, and she comes over, and she hugs him. And it's supposed to be this beautiful thing where it's like they made up. But the problem is, as typical, and here's another thing that I'm talking about, that I've seen this 1,000 times. She did not ask forgiveness from him. This makeup scene was not her apologizing for everything she did horribly wrong, placing tons of pressure, of undue pressure, blaming him for things that were not his fault. Even if he played a minor mistake over here, he did things that he shouldn't have done. It's true. He should not have used her as bait, etc. But, like, he couldn't... He was trying so hard to respect her wishes, where she said, if you harm a hair on her head... So he was holding himself back so badly in order to not hurt her master, while still trying to get information out of the master, and the master wouldn't talk to him. When all he wants is information. He's trying so hard to respect Jiang Ci and her master because it's Jiang Ci's master. She put all that pressure and blame on him. And yet she did not apologize for what she did. You might see it as an apology. I could not see it as an apology. All I could see, because of his expression, because of the weight on his shoulders, because of the way she approached him, because of the look on her face, and because of the way she hugged him and everything, all I saw was her finally forgiving him. It was not an, I am so sorry, I never should have put that on you. You didn't do anything in comparison to what I did. The way that she treated him because of her master. Like I said, all of this, gone. All of it gone. She backtracked completely. She backstabbed Wei Zhao. I am telling you, she backstabbed Wei Zhao. Her whole entire attitude and how she did it. She backstabbed him. She hurt him so bad. And yet she did not apologize for any of it. It was a, yes, finally I know the truth so I can actually forgive you so that we're good now. She is forgiving him. That is what this was. Finally, she can forgive him because it turns out she was wrong. This part was not his fault, so she can forgive him. Finally, the pressure's off. Finally, she doesn't have to hold it against him anymore. She was such a victim having to hold on to this pain of not being allowed to forgive him, even though she loves him so much. She wanted so bad to forgive him, but she couldn't do it. She had to hold on to this and hate him because the crap. What is this? Like, what is this? That is what it was to me. That is what I heard. That is what I saw. That is what it was. It was her that was a victim because she couldn't forgive him. And finally she's allowed to forgive him. And he's forgiven. And the relief that he felt when he's finally forgiven. So that is another huge thing that completely destroyed it. And that is another huge thing I've seen this 1,000 times before. And I am so sick of it. Claiming that she loves him. Backstabbing him. This whole weird turnaround so that there can be turmoil within their relationship. And yet, almost every time I've seen this happens in just about every romance I've ever seen. There's some kind of misunderstanding that happens. And this, by the way, is where Dawn is Breaking plays into it. If you don't believe me that it doesn't make sense most of the time when the woman turns on the man, and it's usually the woman that turns on the man, she gets so emotional and there's some kind of huge misunderstanding, and instead of talking to them, instead of acting the way they claim, like she claims she loves him and yet she does not act like it, there is an element to it. Believe me, I know when the people you love most are the ones that hurt you, it can hurt more than anything else, and you can flip out. In 12 Legends, like I say, she told him to his face, if it was anybody else, I would have just plain hated them. But because it's you, I don't understand, and I'm hesitating, and I need to know why. This plays into it, and yet it almost never does in all of these things. It's just illogical, totally illogical. In Dawn is Breaking, this is why I want to talk about that one. And if you want to know now, that is a really good exact opposite. And it's what I watched, well paused at 31, and I still had 9 episodes left. And this is what I was in the middle of, and I went over here and watched Dawn is Breaking. I'm like, it's right there. If you don't believe me, it's possible. If you don't believe me, it happens. If you don't believe me, it's right there. Even they know it. Dawn is Breaking. Ask me. I will gladly make a video, and you can see the difference. Dawn is Breaking. Love of Nirvana. Like I said, okay. Pei Yan. The supposedly equal love triangle, Jiang Ci, the turnaround betrayal, misunderstanding, refusing to talk, hatred, love turns to hatred, and you just can't help it. Oh my gosh, there is so much wrong with it. There's so much wrong with it, but on top of so much being wrong with it, it just does not make sense. I am trying so hard. If somebody went after my mother, like I'm literally imagining if the person I loved went after my mother, yes, she knows it's not, if factoring in the fact that he was like that at the beginning, so she knows he's capable of that, if that's what it takes in order to get the goal, that could factor into it. Like I say, in the heat of the moment when she first finds this out and sees it, I understand her flipping out and going, hold on, don't hurt her, because I know you're capable of that. It does make sense, because he is capable of that, because he's done this kind of thing before. Sort of. This is why I say, sort of. She knows what happened with the ambassador from Wei. He was not killed. He was alive. So it kind of makes sense. And when you're in the heat of the moment and all worked up and adrenaline is pumping through you for so many reasons, I get that coming out of her mouth. But the calmer she gets, for her to be that vicious and refusing to... The crap! What? It's so illogical. And that is... In a sense, again, it kind of makes sense with her personality. I could sort of get it because it's a fact all the way from the very first episode that her master is the most important person in her life. But she's not the most important person in her life anymore. She loves Wei Zhao now. She knows who he really is. He's not like that. You're all misunderstanding him, is what she literally just said within their timeline. It was no more than like 2 days ago, maximum 2 days ago, in between this and this, maximum. I can't remember for sure exactly how long it was. For me, it was only a few scenes, but for them, I think it was closer to just a day, not even 2. Possibly 3. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it was only like a day or 2 of a timeline. And she goes from this to this. Why? Okay, and then the very third thing, I cannot believe this is 2 hours long. Oh my gosh, there is just so much. So much. When I say 1,000 times over and how a bitter disappointment this is, do you understand yet? I hope some people are still watching because there's so much of this is so important. But guess what? I have the end of the drama to talk about. One more thing that I've seen way too many times and I am so sick and tired of it. But I have to pause this video and talk about it later because I actually have somewhere to go and it's time to go. Okay, I hope that I have talked about everything else I need to talk about. Let's see, after I pause this, if I remember something else, I'll talk about it before I talk about the ending of the drama. But, here you go. This is a really long one. And even by this point, if you're still watching, you want to leave a comment and talk about any of this, feel free to. I will be right back.